Yeah. With the sum of all sins and questionable moments, which character do you think will be the most redemption of heaven for the past few story arcs for whichever title that you like to look into?
I'm sorry, you got to rephrase that question. I'm not quite sure.
Which character you see will need the most redemption that you'd like to explore after all these story arcs, Secret Invasion, Dark Reign, and Siege?
Which character needs more attention? Is that what you're asking? Redemption.
I think it's me.
Yeah. That's your question.
Maybe the answer. I think I'm the answer, actually. But, we announced yesterday that the Red Hulk is joining the Avengers. It was followed quickly by the internet taking a dump on my lawn. But I'm very, very interested in writing that arc of character of acclimating him into the Marvel core Avengers team. So I think that'll be very interesting.
And Scott Summers has gone to some places that he's going to have trouble coming back from.
So is Matt Murdock, actually.
Yeah, and Matt Murdock's got a lot to get. I know it's shocking, but Matt Murdock is going to go through a crippling guilt and punishment crisis.
And Dogpool has a lot of atoning to do.
Mostly from what he did on Venice's lawn.
Hi there. Hi. I've been reading. I read the first issue of Scarlet a couple weeks ago, and it's awesome.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask, the character is so in depth. The overall concept's pretty simple. It's a chick who beats up bad guys, but the character's so in depth that you really find out so much about her life that it makes it interesting. And I'm wondering, what was sort of the process of the creation of that character, and to broaden it, if anybody else wants to talk, since I read all your books. When you create characters, any of you, how in depth do you really try to go?
Well, yeah, I'll talk about it in more length actually at the Spotlight panel following this panel right next door, and I'll be giving you a Scarlet variant cover for your awesome attention to the book. But it is our job as a writer to, not only create a character but try to peel away all that makes that character, all the different things that inspire it. A lot of times these characters are based on people that I know or know very, very well, or they're an amalgam of people that I know very well, who I've either been studying over the years or I'm using my work to try to just understand them more. I'm not saying that I know someone who is violently tearing through the streets of Portland fighting against corruption, but at the same time, the people that they're based on are, when I find something in my real life that I can use as inspiration, the level of depth that I can dig into is almost unending. For people who haven't read Scarlet, a better version would be like Aunt May in Ultimate Spider-Man is a dead-on impression of my mom. To the point, like the only person that gets how good of an impression it is my brother. He goes, "Wow, that is dead on. That is right on the money." And again, now that my mom was harboring teenage superheroes in her house, but
you were pretty special.
Yeah, I was in the costume, but I think that's missing in some mainstream comics, that just willing to, and sometimes it's hard because really you're showing a lot of yourself, and it can be embarrassing and stuff, but at the same time be very cathartic. So I think it's a huge disservice to yourself as a writer and to the audience if you don't try to drop your pants once in a while and not be afraid to say something. So
thanks for that.
All right, thanks for buying it.
Hey, how's it going? Good, let's go. I've got a question about crossovers in the Marvel universe. When I was growing up reading comics in the 90s, a lot of which I bought from a guy sitting right over there, for the record. X-Men had crossovers left and right. You had the Executioner song, you had the stuff with Wolverine, his adamantium pulled out, and so forth. And it seemed for a while that that was, it was kind of the norm. You have a big crossover event for just about every book all the time. And as Marvel kind of got into, the dark age in the late 90s, and Joe, I believe that's about when you took over and started doing Marvel Nights, the Comic Code Authority got dropped, you switched to in-house ratings and stuff. the books got better, there seemed to be fewer crossovers, and in the last 5 years, 6 years or so, it seems that there have been more and more of those coming around. And for the record, this is, a lot of my friends are asking these questions.
Sure.
So is that a trend that we can kind of continue to expect to see, stuff like Civil War, stuff like House of M, where you have a big universe sort of crossover, at the end of which there's almost a reset button? You know, I'm just curious if that's something that we can see or not.
Well, if you've noticed, you know, with all the marketing we put out there for Heroic Age, one of the things that we wanted to do was sort of get off the crossover sort of gerbil wheel, you know, hamster wheel kind of thing, only because I always feel it's like the law of diminishing returns. I can't tell you that we're not going to go back to doing big stories, because at the end of the day, I always say comics are very democratic. People vote with their dollars or they vote with their feet. And what the dollars show is that fans really, really do like these crossovers, as long as we do them well. You know, the comics went into a very, very bad tailspin in the mid-90s. I wouldn't blame that on the crossovers. I would blame it on bad storytelling, marketing things as for speculators more than collectors, and you know, Marvel and other companies became the Franklin Mint. It wasn't about what was between the covers, but what was on the cover. And then, you know, Marvel opened a distributor. There was all sorts of things that led to the downfall, very big downfall of the comics industry. It wasn't the crossovers. And then again, some of them weren't necessarily very good, but there were some very good ones there as well during that time period. There were some good X-Men ones, if I remember, that people do remember fondly, like Age of Apocalypse was a very, very big one, right? So, but it is a part of what we do in storytelling and marketing. Fans love the whole cohesive universe thing. When I started out as editor-in-chief, which will be actually 10 years, August 1st, this August. Yeah, a long time. Thanks, guys. I don't say that for your sympathy, but we were rebuilding, and to do crossovers or anything like that would have been foolish, because it just wasn't. The retailers weren't strong enough. There weren't enough dollars in the industry. We had to rebuild each character individually, so it was very easy to keep characters and stories segregated into their own pocket universes. But then what I would hear from fans a lot is like, you know, it doesn't feel like it's one universe. You know, why are these books all operating separately? Why are the X-Men here and Spider-Man here and the Avengers here, and they don't intermix? And it was a rebuilding phase. And then slowly but surely, House of M, and things led to Civil War, and they lead to Invasion, and we start getting these interconnected storylines, and sales start going up and up. And I think it's a matter of the fact that we rebuilt the brands, we rebuilt the characters, we brought in great creators to come in and take over these books. And now we realized that that we needed to step back a little bit, because if we continue doing this, the next crossover may be the last one, because it's not going to be any good. So we all as a group decided, let's take about a year off and let's look at each individual title. I mean, the challenge to every writer was take Iron Man, take Thor, take the Avengers, and do epic stories within each of your titles, and let's see where that takes us for a year. And then what's inevitably happened is that our most recent creative summit, guys have come in with bigger ideas and fresher ideas for more sort of intertitle kind of crossovers. And the other thing that we try to do is when we do these crossovers, we try to make them as self-contained as possible, if that's even possible. When you look at something like Siege, you know, or even Civil War, let's take Civil War as a perfect example. You could have picked up those 7 issues of Civil War and gotten the entire story. If you wanted more, then you could have gone to these other books and picked up the ancillary titles. We never made you go from Civil War #2, go pick up Iron Man you were never forced to do that, because I felt that was really just the unfair thing to do to fans. So with respect to those kind of books, we keep them self-contained. The only time you might see jumping from book to book is within a family of titles like an X-Men, but we'll do that from time to time. But again, we just assume if you're reading Uncanny, you're probably reading a group of X-Men titles, so it's not that big a stretch. But it is a part of our tools as storytellers. So we'll go back to it, and we'll pull back from it, and we'll do whatever really you guys say that you like. And if ultimately you say, we don't like crossovers and the sales reflect that, we're not going to do crossovers. It's that simple. So, great.
Thanks very much, and thanks for the stories over the last 10, 20 years.
Thanks, I appreciate the support.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Cool.